Welcome to the AG Squared channel. Today we're going to listen to this conversation from The Diary of a CEO clips called The Brutal Truth About Buying a House Nobody Tells You. As someone that has bought and moved to 4 homes, invested in 5 single-family rentals, and self-managed these rentals, let's check it out and react to it.
Buying a house, is that a good investment?
When you do the side-by-side comparison, which I think is the only way to think about this, you're now living in the house, you're paying your mortgage payment, you're paying for some maintenance costs, you're paying for property taxes. Alternatively, you could have rented the house. That 20% that went into buying a home could have been invested in the stock market. So again, we're back to the idea of opportunity cost.
Oh my God, I already know this is going to be a trash conversation. This person is bringing a stupid perspective because he is violating a basic fundamental, and that is that home ownership is not an investment. It is a liability and a lifestyle, one of the very few lifestyles that can make you a ton of money. But if you fall into this trap that he is trying to sell you, which is comparing home ownership as an investment asset to another investment asset such as stocks, well, you're in for a surprise because of course it's going to be a horrible investment because it's a liability. It can't be a good investment. The most powerful thing here about homeownership is that it is yours. Well, yours to do what you want with it. Technically, it's the bank's until you pay off the loan, but you're not going to ever get kicked out from your home unless you fail to pay the bank. Unlike renting, where a landlord can decide to sell the place and you're out of luck. When you own a home, it's where you can raise a family with peace of mind and confidence. So, all right, let's hear the rest of these people out.
Renting typically has lower cash flow costs than owning. So these are the unrecoverable costs of owning a home. Mortgage interest, so that's when you buy a house and you borrow to fund the purchase, you're paying interest to the bank. That's I call these unrecoverable costs. That's money that you're paying for the use of money in this case, and you're not going to get those dollars back.
So I'm sure he's going to continue coming up with more of these unrecoverable costs with his childish little cards that he's showing up on the video. But it's funny that he's breaking the costs down because what's the unrecoverable cost of renting? It's everything, y'all. 100% of it is unrecoverable. There is nothing that is recoverable. But with homeownership, you do have one recoverable cost, and that is the portion of the mortgage that has paid down the principal balance of the loan, giving you equity in that home.
The capital portion, the principal, the price of homes has increased around inflation, at the rate of inflation, maybe a little bit higher historically. Stocks have far outpaced inflation. So by having money sitting in a house as opposed to invested in the stock market, you have what is called an opportunity cost. You're not earning returns you could have otherwise been earning. So that opportunity cost is one of the largest costs of owning a home.
Good grief, man. He's now thinking that an opportunity cost is in itself an unrecoverable cost. But let's correct what he has to say because there is some merit in it, even though he's not delivering the message correctly. Yes, life is made up of opportunity costs. I agree with that. If you decide to own a home and if you pay a little bit more every month for that home, say instead of renting that home, I agree. In theory, that difference is an opportunity cost because that difference can be invested or spent elsewhere. You can eat out at a restaurant, you can buy new clothes, or like very few people will do, you can invest it. And in theory, if that investment asset increases in value, which it's not guaranteed that it will, then your opportunity cost could compound over time. There's a lot of ifs there, right? Let's recap them. If you decide to invest that surplus, most of us will not do that unless you are very disciplined and intentional around investing. More than likely, we're going to find something to spend that money on because we all have to spend more and pay down bills, to pay down our vices, to go to Disneyland, you name it. And then there's the second, if that stock market is always going to go up. I'm starting to realize that this person is likely selling you their agenda. They either work for a mutual fund, or they are a financial advisor that will spew nonsense in hopes that you pay them a commission to manage your own money. What he didn't get right is that when he talks about home equity increasing slightly above inflation, there's two reasons why that's incredibly powerful and better than saying, oh, I got into the stock market and saw a 50% increase in a single year. The first reason is this: you are hedging against inflation. Let me repeat that again, y'all. You are hedging inflation when you own a home or when you invest in rental properties. There is nothing better than that because inflation is basically guaranteed. What hedging means is that you benefit from inflation. When we saw record inflation in the United States during the Biden administration, which hit near 10%, guess who was ecstatic? Anyone that owned real estate. That's one advantage of owning a home. That's why you want to own rental properties, to hedge against inflation. That shouldn't be the only thing you own, though. Definitely own stocks. You want a diversified portfolio. And here's the second reason. Even if a home's value only goes up 3% every year, that 3% increase isn't going towards what you put in to acquire that home or property. It's against what the current home's market value is. So if I buy a home, let's just make the math easy, at $500,000, I can put down as little as 3.5% down using an FHA loan. That's only like $15,000 that you need to buy a $500,000 home, plus some additional closing fees, but let's not muddy the waters. It's about $15,000. And if the home goes up, let's just say 10 years later, by 100%, that home's value is now $1 million, an increase of $500,000. When determining the ROI or return on investment against the initial investment of $15,000, you made $485,000. That's a 32x return. That's not even accounting for the equity you have gained in the home either. So the actual return would be even higher. Unlike in real estate, this is very rare to find in the stock market. Sure, we aren't accounting for the additional costs involved in repairs or maintenance, but everything else, mortgage, insurance, taxes, that's all part of your monthly payments, the same as renting. It's the cost of having a roof over your head.
Property taxes are another big unrecoverable cost. Property taxes vary depending on where you are, but it's say between 0.5% and 1%, maybe sometimes a little bit higher. You get utilities and some services in exchange for it, but it's an unrecoverable cost. You pay that, you've got nothing left afterwards. Then we've got maintenance costs.
Oh, this is the annoying one.
I used to say 1% was a reasonable estimate of maintenance costs, and people would push back and say that's way too high. There's a bunch of academic literature on this too. It says it could well be over 2%. I think that's probably a more reasonable estimate. Having been a homeowner now for 6 years after renting prior to that, I'm fairly confident, at least in my case, that maintenance costs are far higher than 1 or 2% of the property.
Finally, he's getting to a proper cost that a lot of people don't budget for. Maintenance costs. That part's true. I've got more to say on this later though. All the other costs he has mentioned, the mortgage cost, the property tax cost, the insurance cost, one doesn't need to think about each individual item because the amount you pay a month includes all these costs. Part of it goes to the mortgage interest, part of it towards the mortgage principal amount, and the rest goes towards an escrow balance. It's this escrow that is used to pay for property taxes and insurance costs at the end of the year. So this guy is overcomplicating things with his childish cards to make it seem like it's complex. It's not. You have one monthly cost to budget for. That's it. Just like budgeting for rent. Except when owning a home, a subset of that cost goes towards building equity by paying down your home loan. That's a good thing, folks.
Like when we think of maintenance cost, I imagine people are thinking about the fees to fix things, but actually the time I spend having phone calls and speaking to people for me is worth a lot more than just.
What he just said right there, that the time and mental energy it takes to talk to someone to pay them to fix my things is an opportunity cost. What is that? What is going on here, folks? This is the dumbest. I mean, this conversation gets dumb and dumber, right? Like, what they're basically saying is magic should just happen and life's problems should never have to be something I need to put up with. It just magically gets solved. I don't need to talk to anyone. I don't need to take ownership of anything. That's not the way life works. Even if you rent and something goes wrong, guess what you're going to do? You're going to talk to the landlord, right? Or to the property manager. And 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a way worse experience than if you were in control and empowered to say when you want something fixed, how much you want to pay for that, and the quality that you want to get for it. Let me tell you, I am not a slumlord, but I know slumlords. And whenever their renters had issues, guess what happened? They would drag their feet. The poor renter is suffering with whatever issue they are dealing with for weeks on end. And finally, when that slumlord decides to take action, they send a cheap piece of contractor to do a horrible job, and then the renter's only good for maybe what? A week before the issue resurfaces, and they play this stupid back and forth game, and I feel terrible for those renters. So this notion of peace of mind, I don't want to spend opportunity cost in talking to contractors, is absolute bullshit. Do not think that that is a valid conversation to justify renting over homeownership. So far, I haven't heard anything reasonable that they've talked about where renting is better than owning.
We have emergency cost here, which is really a subset of maintenance costs. So you can have big things like the roof needs to be redone, the foundation cracks, whatever. Those can be very significant. Yeah. One of the challenges with those types of big costs is that you kind of have to have liquidity available to fund them. And that means that you have to have cash sitting somewhere, or at least some liquid assets sitting somewhere. So probably not invested in the stock market, which also has an implied.
This man is a liar, folks. I'm not surprised that he doesn't know what he's talking about or that he refuses to tell you the truth because he's trying to sell you whatever mutual fund he works for or trying to sell his financial advisor services. But let me tell you the truth. Again, at the time of this video, I actively own and self-manage 8 single-family homes. I've replaced 6 roofs. I've replaced probably 5 HVAC systems. I've replaced probably like 8 water heaters. So let me tell you how you can, as a homeowner, be able to pay down large costs, $10,000 or more, without needing access to immediate funds. You take out a 0% loan to pay them down. And usually these 0% loans can last you anywhere from 6, 8, 12 months, some of them upwards of 5 years. That gives you the time to budget and pay down responsibly over time. Very rarely have I ever had to come out of pocket on the spot for more than $1,000. Some of y'all may challenge what I just said and say, yeah, but Adrian, you're paying a huge markup on that work in order to get that 0% interest rate. And in a lot of cases, you are right. But here are 2 ways in which you can prevent paying that markup and simply get the 0% interest rate. My favorite option is to find a credit card like this City Diamond credit card that has a promotional offer where any amount you spend, obviously up to the credit limit, is 0% interest rate for 12 months. You can use it to spend on anything, a vacation, a new toy, or be responsible and pay for that new $10,000 roof. All you have to do is make the minimum monthly payments and make sure to create a calendar reminder to pay the full amount before the promotion ends, because if the promotion ends and you don't pay the full amount, then you are royally f***ed. If that amount isn't fully paid before the promotion period ends, you're going to be hit with a crippling 25+% interest rate. So be responsible if you're going to do this, but again, I have replaced likely $100,000 between roofs, HVACs, water heaters, and furniture, all using no liquidity and only using 0% interest loans.
You account for all of those unrecoverable costs that the owner has. You account for the renter investing in the stock market and investing the cost difference, the cash flow cost difference between renting and owning each month or whatever frequency. And what you'll find, there is a level of rent where you are indifferent between renting and owning. I think for young people, it's really tough. And it's tough for a couple of reasons. One is because home prices are high. You have to save up a lot of money to buy a house. Another one is that it can limit your mobility.
Finally, we heard the number one reason why I advocate for people to rent over owning a home. Ease of mobility. 100%. You have to understand that homeownership is a lifestyle. It basically means that you have decided at that point in time that you're going to be in that place for 3+ years. And also that you want the freedom to be able to do what you want with your home, that you want to be in control of your destiny. You don't want to be at the mercy of the landlord. They can increase rent or worse, terminate your lease within a required legal time frame. But you know what is best for your needs. Don't be forced into renting or into home ownership because someone said so. Weigh the pros and cons and choose with confidence what is right for your specific needs.
We've seen in Toronto, in Canada, where I'm from, prices, condo prices in particular, have plummeted. They've fallen off of a cliff. If you bought a condo in Toronto and you get a job offer somewhere outside of Canada, what are you going to do with that condo that's at a big loss? You can't.
He said that condo prices have plummeted. I'm going to cut them off right now and just say, well, yeah, you're buying a condo. Why the hell would you buy a condo? Maybe in some areas or locations, that's your only option. But if you're going to buy a home, don't waste your time with condos. Don't waste your time with HOAs. These are the worst two things you can do to yourself. They might look very appealing because they got the amenities and they're in an incredible location. But I mean, the word owner is literally part of the word home owner. When buying a condo, you only own whatever is inside that tiny little unit. You don't own the building nor the land.
For my family, I met my wife. I was renting a place. The first place we met in, a second place, a third place, and a fourth place. We rented 4 different places as we were having our family. We have 4 kids. And so our needs were changing over time. We needed a bigger condo. The lease ended and we gave notice and we left. We found a better rental that was more suitable for our needs. If we had been homeowners, the amount we would have paid in transaction costs to do that would have been insane. Or we would have had to buy the house that we were going to have forever much earlier, which would have introduced significant opportunity.
Okay, this is very true. People do not account how expensive it is to transact homes, both as a seller as well as a buyer. As a buyer, this can range from 2 to 5% of the home purchase price. And as a seller, it's closer to 6 to 10% of the home selling price. So if you think about it, between buying and selling, you will pay a total of 8 to 15% of the home's price. And that's assuming that the home doesn't appreciate at all, which it likely will. So this percentage is even higher. It's very expensive. This is why real estate is a long-term hold, at least 3 years, but preferably 5 years or more. But I want to go back to something that he said about younger people struggling with lack of affordability and high home costs. If you're in your low, mid, or upper 20s without a family yet, this is the best time to buy a home, specifically through house hacking. Buy a home to live in and also rent out rooms. Get the best of both worlds. That is exactly what I did and how I got started on my now 8 single family portfolio. Even if you just do that once and then move out to buy your own home, now you also own a rental property, which is an actual investment or asset, which you can now compare against other investment assets like stocks, crypto, options, commodities, etc. But if you're overly ambitious, like I am, you're going to repeat this wonderful model. Rinse and repeat it until you own as many real estate assets as you want. To this day, 8 homes later, I still rent out my current home's lower finished basement with a separate entrance. I have not paid a mortgage in like 9 years because my profits from my rental's rent covers my own mortgage. Even owning just one rental is the long-term wealth generation vehicle. It's not about thinking of annual returns, folks. It's about thinking on generational tax-friendly returns. So the moment you have one rental property, folks, here's what could happen. Number one, never sell. If you're young enough, it will be fully paid within 30 years. And guess what's going to happen after that? Not only has that home increased in price due to inflation, but because it is fully paid off, around 90% of all monthly rent is immediate profit, also known as cash flow. I said 90% instead of 100% because even with a fully paid property, you still pay insurance, taxes, and of course, repair and maintenance. Once you die, guess what's going to happen to that rental property? You're going to be able to transfer that property tax-free to your children. Let me repeat that again. Tax-free to your children by using a revocable trust. Folks, don't think short term like this man's trying to tell you to do by thinking year over year over year. Think generations. This mindset is going to be a game changer for you. You will learn how to grow wealth versus focusing on short-sighted returns via the stock market. But don't get me wrong, you should be investing in the stock market as well. Just look at my net worth makeup behind me. 45% is in real estate and 45% is in stocks. I couldn't have planned it better than that, folks. Here's my recommendation to you. Start with stocks. It's easier to build an investment mindset and muscle with them. Master budgeting and investing. And only once you demonstrate to yourself that you are financially responsible, which means no credit card debt, no personal loans, etc., then level up to house hacking, your way into your first home and rental. Want to see and learn how I budget and track my expenses over the last years? Check out the above video here to learn invaluable strategies and techniques that anyone can do.
When we have these conversations about buying a house or not buying a house, one of the things I see a lot in the comment section is people sharing their case studies of them buying a house 30 years ago, and now it went from being worth $100,000 to $600,000. And they're asserting that that's evidence that it's a good idea. You probably see this a lot.
This is the thing. This is the example. And if everyone has the family member that bought a house for $70,000 and sold it.
Well, yeah, everyone has that friend or family member because it's true. It's so rare to lose money in real estate. Not impossible, but difficult. Use AI to conduct a residential market analysis of your local market to determine if your market has sufficient red flags to merit holding off on buying a home. And no, folks, high prices and high interest rates are not factors. They're not red flags. It comes down to more important signals. Signals like job growth, population growth, crime, and volume of new homes being built.
Also, if you want to start a family, you need a stable place to raise your children. And with renting, you can be kicked out within a few months' notice and your whole life could be turned upside down. This guy here said, I bought a house. It's the best thing I ever did. It's launched my mindset in new directions. Remember that having your own space has profound psychological impact and can be life-changing for some of us that want to live in a healthy environment.
If you end up buying in a market that goes up a lot in a short period of time, it can be really, really good. But Canada's right now in one of the biggest real estate price drawdowns when you adjust for inflation, going back to 1975. And so if you had bought, yes, 7 years ago, and then looked at the price in 2022, you'd think, wow, I'm a genius. Of course, everybody should buy. But if you had bought in, I think it's 2021 was the kind of peak, and you look at it today, you're thinking like, wow, I've ruined my life.
The lack of intelligence on this person, y'all. Okay. If I time the real estate market right before an upward explosion in home prices, I'm a genius. If I time it wrong, I become underwater on my home loan and I'm forced to live in my home for a longer period of time. Let's see, can we apply that same thinking to something else? Yeah, if I time the stock market right before it skyrockets up, I'm a genius, right? But oh my God, if I time it wrong, I lose a ton of money. Don't bother trying to time things, okay? Always think long term. Invest in stocks for the long term. Buy a home as a lifestyle for the long term. Buy a rental property as an investment for long term. You will make a killing in all of these three classes, and they're each going to give you a distinct advantage.
And even one of the crazy ones I learned about when I got some money was that you can take a loan against your stocks and there's no tax on the loan. So if I have $1 million of Facebook stock, I can go to a bank and get $500K in cash loaned against that stock without having to sell it. And then on that $500K, I have no tax to pay.
You could, but if it goes down, you get margin call and they have to come up with the cash to.
Oh, I actually love this comment because it's true. I've done this exact model to buy my 6th or 7th property. And I'm going to tell you how you can do it with real estate as well, with no tax implications. When taking out a loan against your stock portfolio or your 401k, be sure it's a small percentage of it though. You don't want to lose the compounding gains benefit by taking out a loan against the majority of your stock holdings. It's also worth noting that there is a small quarterly fee that your bank will charge for this type of loan, and it will come with an interest rate, typically higher than what it would be if you took out a conventional home loan. I think when I took out a loan against my 401k, the interest rate was around 9%. But here's the beautiful thing about this. Those interest rate payments are paid directly to you, not to the bank, not to anyone, just directly to yourself. Well, technically back to your brokerage account that belongs to you. So let's summarize what I did here. I bought a rental property using a loan against my own stocks, paying myself a 9% interest rate on that loan. And now that rental property is making monthly cash flow and appreciating annually. Yes, folks, this is not magic. This is not rocket science. You don't need to be a genius. You just need to listen. Find people that have done this and know what they're talking about. Learn from them. Seek mentors. The reason I openly share this knowledge without charging for it is because I firmly believe it should be free information. Only a very small number of you listening to this will do anything with this money printing strategies because it takes ambition and conviction. If you have both, reach out to me and let me know how I can support you. And guess what? You can also do a similar technique with real estate. Let's say hypothetically that I own a home and I did the right thing, which is to hold it for the long term. I've now lived in this home for 8 years now. In this time, the home has appreciated and I've amassed a lot of equity in this time. how do I tap into these gains without selling the home and paying all the fees and taxes? Well, I do what's called a cash out refinance. In a nutshell, you're basically getting a new home loan and using that new loan to pay off your current loan and use any remaining excess in that new loan to pay yourself. And because you're taking out a loan, those proceeds are tax-free. But this requires weighing the pros and cons of this technique. So don't just do it blindly if you do own a home and have equity in it. In 2025 alone, I did 3 cash out refinances across my properties, pocketing roughly around $50,000 or $60,000 tax free. I go in a lot more detail in terms of when, why, and how to do a cash out refinance in the above video here. If that's relevant to you, be sure to watch it. All right, we're going to call that a wrap, folks. I hope you walk away with these 3 takeaways and that they help you with your goals. First, homeownership is not an investment. It is the opposite. You're getting into a liability, but it is a lifestyle. Don't ever let someone convince you that investing somewhere else is better, because that's like saying that an apple is better than a pencil. It's a stupid comparison. Second, start learning and thinking about how to creatively let money work for you. I love this notion of investing in stocks, letting it exponentially grow, taking out loans against it, and investing those proceeds into something that will make you money. Same thing with doing cash out refinances on homes or rental properties. Be less of a consumer, be more of a producer. Third, balance ambition and working hard with enjoying life. Life is meant to be enjoyed, folks. Don't only worry about making money and becoming a millionaire and optimizing ROIs. That has a time and a place as long as it's balanced. As always, folks, thank you so much for watching. And if you're interested in any more finance content, home ownership content, or if you want to learn how to save a ton of money by becoming handy around the house, doing your own repairs, maintenance, and renovation projects, be sure to subscribe and check out my YouTube channel. I have a ton of content across all these topics and have plenty of upcoming gems coming soon. I'll see you in the next one.